Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host,
Brett
Gilliland.
Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast. I've done many episodes, well over 100 at this point. Maybe to some that's not many. For me, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of episodes. But I've never done one quite like this one. Except for the other day, I was on the other end of this episode. My guest today is none other than Brett Gilliland, which is fun to say. So welcome to the show, Brett.
Hey, it's good to be with you, Brett Gilliland.
Yeah,
That's
so
crazy.
This came about because Brett and I ran into each other on LinkedIn, and it was a few years back. Somebody got us confused, I think, or maybe I was just curious. I don't remember what happened, but I was like, oh, yeah. there's another Brett Gilliland out there, and he's doing cool stuff. And it turns out we both have podcasts. And one day we said, wouldn't it be fun to interview ourselves, interview each other on a podcast? And so we did that recently on Brett's podcast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your Circuit of Success podcast so that people know about that, and then we'll get into your business in our normal interview. Yeah.
It's one of those things that an idea became an action, became a passion over the last 6.5 years. And I think I interviewed my 382nd person just about 2 hours ago. So it's been amazing. It's certainly not my day job, but it is something that I love to do, and have anywhere from professional athletes to business people to authors, you name it. We've probably had it, and it's just been incredible. And I think it helps our firm. It helps, certainly helps me as a leader. There's no doubt about it. I'm in a classroom with people every single week. It feels like in their classroom, and so it's been a ton of fun, and getting to know people and getting to know people like yourself from all over the country. And what a small world it is. Super small world. Why don't you tell people, if they're interested in checking out the podcast, what would they expect to tune into? One might assume this is about successful people sharing principles of success, but how would you tee that up so that they know how to filter? Yeah, I would say it'd be the habits, the mindset, the rituals that you see from all different walks of life, from people that, I had a guy that was blind, and he canoed the Grand Canyon and climbed Antarctica, or climbed a mountain, and to, again, athletes but really just normal everyday people as well, finding out what makes them tick, what's the lessons they've learned on their journey of success. And we talk about the attitude and the beliefs and the mindset and actions and results. But we also get into the tough conversations on things they've learned and things they've struggled with and how they got through them. So probably a lot of similarities of the things that you're doing, Brett, on your podcast, and just really trying to help people achieve a future greater than their past. And that's what we get up and do every day at our firm, and also on the podcast. Oh, that's amazing. You referenced your day job, and you just mentioned the firm. Let's transition to that. But I highly recommend those of you who are interested in hearing everyday people and everyday stories talk about keys to their success. Brett's got a great podcast, so check that out. Let's talk about your quote unquote day job. I think you said Visionary Wealth Advisors, and you're based out of St. Louis. St. Louis, yeah. We've got 8 office locations around the country, but housed here in St. Louis, and that's where our home base is. But you're serving the whole country. Yeah. We have clients, I think, in 47, 48 states now. Yeah. So talk about the primary services you guys are providing, so that, again, if anybody's interested in checking out what you guys are doing at Visionary Wealth, they can look into that. Yeah, we're an independent RIA, a registered investment advisory firm. And so thanks for asking. And so we really help successful people make great decisions with their money. I think there's a lot of things that go on out there, and you hear this and you hear that. And so really what we try to do is focus on the planning side of that. A lot of our clients own businesses, or executives and athletes, whatever it may be. And so there's just a lot of moving pieces with their life, their real estate, other businesses, whatever it may be, investments that they have. So we like to bring everything together and hence the name visionary. It's like what the future could or will be like. And so, one of the things that we get the benefit of working with us is we have clients that have already been there and done that. And so we're really helping those 40s and 50s and 30s and 60s-year-olds, navigate life through the craziness that we all have with, kids and businesses and all the stuff that we want to go do. And so that's it. So we do, like I said, retirement planning, education planning, vision planning, life planning, investments, and just wake up every day and really blessed to get to serve our clients day in and day out.
All right. Thanks, Brett. You mentioned helping them do things that maybe they don't have to figure out on their own. They can learn from others who have done it. And so,
yeah.
And let's transition to what this podcast is about. You've built something significant as a business owner, and there are lessons that you've learned that some of our listeners shouldn't have to learn all on their own. They can at least learn from some of the things that you've done. So that's kind of the purpose of our show. So let's dive into that. I think I said before we hit record that, while I want to honor it, and I do honor it for every entrepreneur who got something off the ground, who went through that scrappy, gritty founder thing and got their baby off the ground. They got this thing launched. I honor that. But what we focus on here is once you start having a growing team and you have a 7-figure business, then there's some new things you got to figure out in order to continue to scale that business. And so I'd like to transport you, if not in space, at least in time, in your memories, back to that time in your business progress. And if you could just share briefly what it was like for you to start to make the transition from, doer, learner of all the things to now leader of people. And, somebody had to figure out how to build a business.
Yeah, I think it makes me think of an exercise I went through, probably 2016-ish. And we had an exercise with our executive team. There was 4 or 5 of us in the room. And I said, all right, everybody's going to write down the top 10 things that they think they do for the firm. Okay. So you write them all down in the journal and present this idea. And everybody goes around the room and they start presenting what they do for the firm. And then we took a vote, and we like to vote. We joke around about it. All right, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna vote. And it's funny, the things that I thought I was, really good at doing, and the things that I thought they really needed me to do were really the things they didn't want me to do. Like, get out of that thing. And so I'm really good at flying high at 100,000 foot view. But getting in the weeds, I may get in the way. And so for me, it was a really humbling exercise. When you start something, like you said, it's your baby, right? One day you're the CEO and the janitor. And the hardest thing for me was to be able to let go. I don't micromanage, but is to not be needed as much in certain areas and aspects of the day-to-day business. And for me, back in 2016, that was really, really hard to know that I didn't have to have my decision, my voice, my fingerprints on every aspect of the day-to-day business. And it was really emotionally tough for me to understand that. So hopefully that answers your question, but that was probably one of the toughest ones for me.
Well, that does begin to answer, because I want to dive into that even further. You mentioned 2016, and we're about to turn the calendar on 2024. In fact, this, excuse me, when this episode airs, it will likely be 2024. Yeah. So, 7-8 years later, call it whatever it is, to go from where you were then to where you are now, is there anything practical, concrete, tangible you could point to that helped you begin to let go? That emotional connection is really hard for some business owners to let go of those things that they derived maybe some satisfaction, personal satisfaction out of doing those things, or it felt like, look, I know how to do something well. I'm adding value here, and we have to let go of this thing. How did you start to let go?
Well, I think part of it is by practice. I mean, you got to just do it. Sometimes you got to have faith, and you got to have trust. And so I think when you have amazing people that are much smarter than you that work with you, and they're capable of handling it, it's like, okay, if I'm putting dollars towards this person every 2 weeks and I trust them and I like them and I know they're going to do good work, I need to just probably do that. right? I need to have faith. And that's one of the things in the circuit of success is we talk about the faith of having that, the faith in the higher power. Yes, but more like the faith in that person's going to get the job done, trusting it, and then getting out of the way. And from the books I've read to podcasts I've listened to, leaders that I've studied, that's what I have found is the best leaders show a vision and then they get out of the way. And that's what I felt like I needed to do. And then when I would do that and then it would work, it was like, oh, this is kind of nice. I don't need to be involved in that thing, right? Whatever that is right now. And so for me, it was just trial and error. Do it, and maybe kind of sneak back in a little bit and try to do it. And, oh, no, I'm supposed to come back this way, right? And but it was just having trust, having faith, having great people behind you, around you. I know that's the hardest thing for me too, is like, hey, I know I can just do this, or I can hire another person. But sometimes it's hard, right? When it's our hard-earned dollars, and when you're a business owner, that's money you don't bring back to the family anymore if you look at it that way. And so I think having again, trust and faith that if I hire that extra person, then it's going to allow me to do A, B, and C differently and let go of this piece of the pie. And then I can go do what I'm uniquely qualified to do. And so we found in that exercise with 10 things, there were really 3 things that they wanted me to do. And then it gave me permission, per se, to go out and focus on those 3 things. And it's been probably the most clarity and most peace I've had in my business life ever, is again, using that word, given permission to do those things.
Well, I don't know where you picked up the exercise, but I love the idea of just you writing down what you thought was important and then comparing it, juxtaposing it against what they were telling you.
Yeah.
And then for you to have enough, I guess, even self-esteem to say, I can let go of those things that they're telling me, and enough belief, like you said, enough faith that that's going to go well. And I like the P word you used, which was practice. It's like, not all these things are like flip the switch. One day I'm this and one day, the next day I'm that. It's usually more of a gradual process. Yeah. And for you to try it out a little bit and dip your toe and see that it started to, oh, that worked just fine. Nothing fell apart.
That's right.
That's good. Okay. I love that principle. If we were to identify another key thing that you learned to be able to start to grow, and let's think about the complexity. As your team started to grow, it's one thing to start to step away as an owner and let other people take things. It's another transition to start to build a real leadership team, because at first it's like you and a bunch of people, and then it's like, wait a minute, I need to have some leaders around me.
Yeah.
Could you talk to me about some of the lessons you learned as you began to build out a leadership team?
Yeah, and I think for that, you are correct. It's like, to build the leadership team, again, I always go back, it takes money, right? It takes money to go out and hire the right people. You can't just hire somebody and, whatever, they're all of a sudden a leader. I think leadership, there has to be a mutual respect. And for one, he or she and I and my business partner, Tim Hammett, just to kind of dovetail a little bit there, I have a business partner, Tim Hammett. He's the co-founder, president. I'm the co-founder and CEO. I mean, he and I, his strengths are my weaknesses and vice versa. So I think that certainly helps. And then, we brought somebody from the outside in Ryan Barkey. And it's, again, one of those things is when we hire people smarter than you and better than you and what they do, get the hell out of the way. And that's what I just have had to learn is to do that. But then that person also has to bring their A game. Because, Wealth Advisor, we have almost 40 advisors, and these are super successful advisors. These aren't like the new guy or gal that just started, 6 months ago or a year ago. I mean, our folks are, 15 years up to 45 years in the business. So these are legitimate, very successful advisors. So their expectations are high, as they should be. And so when you bring a leadership team in, they've got to bring their A game. And so that's what you're looking for, is like the talent that you bring in, finding the right people that can have the right discussions, be transparent, be vulnerable, and share a message that from the top, this is what we're about and this is what we're going to do, but can also hold their feet to the fire and say, hey, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to do A, B, and C. And so again, the caliber of people, and everybody knows that, but the caliber of people matters, the trust matters, the mutual respect matters. And then again, just having faith to hire the right people, get the right people on the bus. That's been what I've found to be one of the biggest deals.
So you and your partner, Tim, it sounds like you have very complementary skill sets, strengths. Yes. And then you bring in somebody from the outside to build out this leadership team further. I'm just curious. I have no idea, but I'm curious as to know, was there any difficulty in, I don't know, onboarding a leader or bringing in outside capable executive leadership that then might impact our culture or our way of doing things here? And what were there concerns about that? And how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, we talk a ton about values in our organization, and if we're not values aligned and mission and vision aligned, it's just never going to work. So the nice thing for Ryan is I knew him personally. We coached basketball together. Our kids went to the same school, and we had mutual friends, and so. Probably, and I'm sure he's doing the same thing to me, right? Is this person a good person that I want to, take my career to? And same thing for me. Is this somebody that I want to bet on? And so we had that, and it's just, you work on it and you build that relationship and you spend a lot of time. Ryan and I talk every day. We go to lunch probably 3 or 4 times a week together. You got to spend that time and that energy together. And when you do that, I think good things can happen when your values aligned.
Yeah, I think the value alignment is huge.
Well, we've done things in the past where you maybe not values aligned, and it doesn't work, right? You've learned lessons over time, and it does not work. And probably been another one of my biggest learnings in business is just trust your gut, and your gut usually is right.
Yeah, in this case, the gut is about values alignment, right? And
yep,
we all, for some reason, we're taught or learned how to assess a candidate based on qualifications, experience, background kind of stuff. And we're less trained or less naturally drawn towards that values alignment until you have some hires that go the wrong way because of the values alignment. And then you say, whoa, there's something else that matters here. Right. What have you learned that would help has helped you become a better selection person, right? A better interviewer around values that might be of help to another business owner?
I think for us, we just have a recent hire that starts in January, probably the month we're listening to this. And for that, it was a process. And so I think sometimes we can be jaded in our own thinking and not getting feedback and yep, this is the right person. But our interview process is more along the lines of, yes, getting my input. Yes, getting Tim's input, but also getting Ryan's and Lauren's and Taylor's and Robin. All these people. Is we set up a visionary day, and they'll come in, and we even have 3 or 4 advisors spend time with them, right? And so now we're getting this cross pollination of we all come from different backgrounds. Yes, we're all in the same financial industry, but this one maybe came from that industry or that type of brokerage firm, and this one came from here. And so we have different perspectives, and we're getting those perspectives now through a pretty deep intel engaged process. And so for me, that's really good because now it's feedback that you get. We've all heard the 360-degree approach. It used to just be, it was me, yep, we'll make the hire, or Tim, yep, make the hire. But now it's getting more people involved. And then you get buy-in, right? So if I get buy-in from our culture, it's not just, oh, that's Brett over there, he's going to hire another, crappy person. It's no, we all did this. So if this one sneaks through the cracks here, we all messed up on that one. And so we have buy-in that then the advisors can take that out to the marketplace and enjoy that person as well.
I love that you brought that up. I could not have anticipated that we would be talking about this right now, but that concept of involving the team isn't just to get more perspective, which you pointed out, and that's true. Let's make sure we see this from every angle we possibly can. But when they all say yes to this candidate, now they're intrinsically motivated to help that person succeed. They're not just sort of sitting there waiting for, let's see how Brett's pick went. It's no, like you said, I said yes to this and I want to be right. And so I'm going to do everything I can to help that person succeed. And it's so powerful.
So powerful. Yeah. So powerful.
That's something that I learned a long time ago as well, but I don't know that I've ever had one of my interview guests bring that up. So I'm so glad that you did.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Yeah. When the team says yes, the team is not just bought in, but they're invested in this person's success. They're like, I said yes to this. I want to be right. So
I think as leaders, we're pretty quick to know in our gut, right, what we feel. But when you've got feedback, I mean, this last hire, I was actually, I think only in one, maybe two, but I think only one meeting. So what I talked about earlier, letting go and getting out of that process is like this role. I'm not going to be the person doing the day-to-day work with that person. So who am I to say, yep, okay, person over here, you're going to be working with this person over here. You two have never met, but I made the decision because I'm the CEO and the co-founder, right? Yeah. But no, let the people that are going to work together every day, let's make sure they connect and that they want to work together.
Oh, there's so many forces fighting against this, right? Because we feel that the reason we posted the job in the first place is because, hair's on fire. We're already behind. I needed somebody yesterday. Yeah. And then we fall in love with the resume. We're like, this is it. It's finally it. Yep. And we just want to run and plug people in and let's go. And we got to slow down and say, wait a minute, if I get it wrong, that's so costly. It's so disruptive. Yeah. It's a waste of time and money. If I get it right, it's so beneficial. So how can I increase the chances of being right? So it sounds like you have an extensive selection process. What else does it look like? And not just involving other team members, but other like multiple steps or multiple interviews? Like, how do you guys do that?
Yeah, so we have the initial interview that somebody will hold and make sure again that let's say there's 15 candidates for that position, they'll narrow that down to 2 or 3 or 4, depending on, they may like 3 or 4 people, you never know. In this last one, Tim spent a fair amount of time with them. That's more on his side, that he'll be spending a lot of time with that. So we got to make sure, again, values connection is there. And if it's a values connection with him, it's going to be a values connection with me because he and I are, we're locked and loaded on that. And so I don't ever have to worry about that. I don't have to, manage that. It is what it is. And so we don't do, personality tests. Maybe we should, but it's more of, again, values. I don't mean to keep saying the same thing. We're going to have the short podcast here, but it is that connection and being a good person, having good energy, a good attitude. We call it, I think I said hell already, so maybe I can use little cuss words on this podcast, but we call it the no asshole rule. And if we can't go to a conference, let's say, and I don't want to go to dinner, we don't want to spend time away at a conference together, do I really want to work with you every day? The answer is no. And so that no asshole rule for us is huge. And you could ask anybody in our firm, what's the rule? I'll say no asshole rule. Yeah. And that's what we do. And that's what we stand for. And we try really hard to do that.
That's great. It's really great. I don't think we fully appreciate as business owners how crucial it is that we get hiring right. I mean, we kind of academically, I'll say it, but when it comes down to it, we don't invest enough time, energy into getting this right. So I love hearing examples like yours where you involve the team, you get really clear on the values. That's it. And I'm with you. I mean, I know some people really like their favorite personality assessment or whatever. Nothing against that. But to me, none of those personality assessments will check against my values. There might be some overlap, but I want to check against my values. And
we're very clear. And hats off to Tim for this, my business partner. The job description and the detail that goes into this job description, and it's signed off. Like this is what we are hiring you for. Like we are going to be crystal clear on what you're being hired for. So then when you're in here, oh, I didn't know I was going to have to do this, or I didn't know I was going to have to do that. And Tim beats that drum, and it's been a game changer for us over the last couple of years to have crystal clear job description on this is what every single person on the team is going to do, and then follow that job description.
Yeah. Total clarity. Nothing like it. Yep. And then the accountability, which is one of the favorite words by business owners, like, oh, why can't they be more accountable? Or I wish I could hold people better accountable. or I was better at holding them accountable. But usually in my mind, that means they just haven't been very clear with people about the expectation. So,
I would 100% agree with that. I mean, when you were saying that word, I'm like, oh no, how am I going to answer that? Because we don't have a lot of accountability in our firm from a standpoint. I mean, it's obviously do the right thing, be compliant, and don't be an a-hole, like all those things. But like, I don't have to like, make sure by Friday at 5 o'clock, this thing is done. It's like, you just get it done. And that's the expectation. Now, if you don't continue to get it done, there's going to be a discussion. But there's not accountability because it's just, this is the expectation. And then give them the power. If an email comes in and you need this one thing, like the thing we got to be the better at is, I got the email, let's respond and give a stated time, right? And that's what we're doing now is, what's a stated time I can get this done? You said the time you could get it done. If it was by Thursday at 2, well, then you better have it done by Thursday at 2.
Yeah. And every time you're making little improvements around clarity,
That's
right? It's like clear expectations, clear deliverables. And you said we don't have to be accountable, or we don't have to do accountability around here. But really, what you're saying to me is you got a bunch of accountable people because they have clear ownership. They know exactly what's expected. It's been spelled out from the beginning. They took full ownership of that and said, yes, I could, give me that baton. I got it. And then, the accountability just kind of naturally follows. So
that's true.
Anyway, love that. Before we wrap up here, Brett, I would love to hear, because you told us from the beginning of this time together, you said, one of the biggest things that I had to learn how to let go. I had to trust others. And you made some really great points about that. I would say, if not the first thing in your leadership journey, maybe that was an early part of your leadership journey, as you continue to push yourself to be a better leader, what's one of the biggest things that has made a difference for you, whether it's a practice or a mindset or a resource, anything that you feel to share around leveling up your leadership game? Because at the end of the day, when you stop doing work, it all becomes about leading more effectively. So what are you doing to be a better leader that might be of use to somebody else?
Well, I hope somebody would answer that if you ask them about me, is I stay a student of the game by constantly working on myself and then working on what I work on through myself, through others. And what I want to do is, again, help people achieve a future greater than their past. Our firm's mission is, by everything I'm working on, giving ideas and strategies and thoughts around that. So whether it's a client or an advisor in our firm, that's my biggest role. See our clients, see our advisors, do things in the community, right? Like podcasts, other things like that. So, sit on boards. And so I think that's important. I think when people know you work on yourself and you value getting better, that they know if they have a meeting with you, you're going to help them try to be better, right? Not that you're going to change their life in one meeting, but you're trying to help them get 1% better every time. And so for me, it's journaling, constantly journaling. It's strategic think time on Wednesdays from 1 to 2:30. It's sitting down with a journal, an ink pen, and myself, no technology, for an hour and a half and just thinking. Early on, that was brutal to set for an hour and a half. I'm like, what the heck am I going to talk about, right? And now I cherish that time. I look forward to that time. So for anybody listening to this, I know you're busy. I know you've got a lot going on, but if we can slow down and have strategic think time for an hour and a half a week, I promise you great things will happen. And stay focused on the mission, the vision, the values of the firm. And that's where ideation happens. That's where creation happens. And for me, that's been one of the biggest game changers, along with journaling. And then also another step I would say is going out of the office 4 times a year on a retreat. Mm-hmm. I'll do it by myself for a day, and then I'll spend a day with our team outside of the office. So you're working on your business and not in your business. And that recipe has been very successful for us.
Well, that personal routine of weekly think time, just yourself, your thoughts, your paper and pen, so powerful. Especially with, as you described, going from the discipline of like making yourself do it at first, or like, this is kind of hard. I don't really know what I'm doing, to now cherishing having that clarity time is powerful. And then to, I mean, you didn't equate it to it, but then to throw in the the leadership rhythm, a similar rhythm, really, for organizational clarity. We need to get together on a quarterly basis.
Yeah.
There's personal clarity about yourself and the business. There's business level clarity when you bring the team together. I think that's exceptional counsel to be sharing with others. So thank you.
Yeah. And I think too, if you saw my phone every Wednesday at 1:00, I mean, it's like, it'll vibrate for like 2 minutes, because the whole week leading up to that, I'll say, Siri, remind me on Wednesday at 1:00 to think about ABC. Right. And then when all those reminders come off at 1:00, it's my job, wherever I'm at that moment in that strategic think time, meaning emotionally or mentally, check the one that I want to go through. And it may take the whole hour and a half for that one. It may take 5 minutes. I might say, that's not important anymore. Delete it, get rid of it. And then if it doesn't, then it's remind me next week. Right. And then they may stay on the Siri reminder list for 4 months. Who knows? Right. But every Wednesday at 1:00, there's those reminders coming off. Right. And they're just there to remind me of things I need to think about, because whether it's laying in bed at night, maybe I shouldn't have my phone next to me. I know a lot of people on podcasts tell you don't do that, but hey, Siri, remind me on Wednesday at 1:00 to think about A, B, and C, because this thing was going on in my brain. And then what I found is when I can get it out of my mind and onto my process, I can go to bed a lot easier.
Yeah, you have a placeholder for that. Yeah. And your brain knows, okay, I'm not gonna drop that. It's not gonna fall through the cracks. It's safely captured. And then you can be at peace. I love that very practical thing you've created. Hey Siri, Wednesday at 1:00. Yeah. And all those reminders coming in. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Brett, I've had such a great time. Thank you for saying yes to an interview on our show and sharing many practical leadership lessons in your own growth journey. Super valuable. So thanks again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Brett. Really appreciate the time.
All right. Last chance. If you wanted to share with others how they might reach you, whether it's about your advisory firm or checking out the podcast, like where would they go to do that?
Yeah, you can go to visionarywealthadvisors.com. You can go to circuitofsuccess.com for the podcast. I'm on all the major, social media platforms. Shame and no plug. My shame here. My plug is my journal. Achieving a Future Greater Than Your Past is on Amazon. And that's really my whole process. That's how I live every 90 days. And so I've taken the last 20 something years and put it all into one spot that I literally every single day use this journal and then my blank journal for my writing. That's what I do. So find me on social media, find me on those websites, check out the journal on Amazon, and creating videos to help people understand that journal. But it's a process to go through, and it's something that will really, really help your listeners. Love it. Thank you, Brett. And I'm sure we'll be running into each other out there on the internet, and people confuse us in our podcast, but it was really fun to interview you. Absolutely. And it was fun interviewing you last week. So people should check that out as well, because you won't plug yourself, but you can go to YouTube or the circuitofsuccess.com and see this Brett Gilliland's interview with me. Yeah, that was fun. All right, everybody listening, please continue to listen, like, subscribe, do all those things, and share with others. We're trying to help as many seven-figure business owners as possible learn from great people like Brett about the real lessons that they're learning as they are moving along their real growth journeys. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.